Hey, what's up? So sometimes I find myself pulling the server for new data until a specific condition applies. So I'm going to show you how we can implement this using promises in JavaScript. So to do this, I'm going to simulate a simple Restful API. So we have here like a list of users. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to navigate them one by one until I reach a specific user. And this is possible because I can actually pass a query parameter. So limit 1 and page 1, this will give me the page 1, and each page will contain just only one user. So this is page 2 and this is page 3. I'm gonna continue until page 10, and I will grab this user, and when I find it, I will just stop fetching data. So yeah, and this is actually where we are gonna write our code or execute our code. This is just a simple HTML page that just loads this index.js script as a web module. So inside of it, as you can see, I can use the import statement. I am importing Lodash because I'm going to use a function from Lodash. And this syntax here will inject Lodash as a global variable called underscore. And as you can see, we have .map, we have all of that functionality. So to start, I'm going to create, I'm going to create just the page number, which is 1. The URL would be this. And I'm gonna just inject the page here. So I'm gonna return a new promise, and the function here will accept, of course, the resolve function. So first thing, I'm gonna use the fetch API to go to that URL. Then I'm gonna convert this into JSON. And then we have our data. So we need to check if we actually reached that user, which I can't check the page number, but I will do it with the ID just to give it a realistic sense, you can say. So, and this will actually always return an array. So I'm gonna destruct that first element. So data.id, if that equal to this, then we will resolve. Else, we need to redo the same logic, but increasing the page number. So this is where this could be a little bit hard. How we can actually recall this function here we pass to the promise. So it's a little bit like hard, but the trick is to define this function here above and keep calling it, and always pass to it the same reference to the resolve function. So if this function will be called 100 times, each time it will have the same reference to the resolve function from the first promise, or the only promise we have, and it will invoke that at some point. The code will make it simpler. I would create a variable called pull. It will be equal to a sync function. I will write my code in a simpler syntax. I hate keep adding to things. It's hard to read, at least in my opinion. So first thing, I'm going to define this here, so I can actually change the page, or this can actually be changed, or this will be actually changing each time we invoke it, right? So first thing, I'm gonna check, my bad. First thing, I'm gonna just get the data by calling the fetch API with the URL. Then I'm gonna just map that to JSON, and if I had here await, this will await the last promise being returned from this chain, which is converting the data to JSON, and data will be actually JSON. So I'm gonna do this since we are always retaining an array. So this will get the first element. I will call it user. So now our simple check, this one. But if user.id is this, I'm gonna I will pass this here, of course. Resolve this with the user data. Else, I'm gonna increase the page number. That's why I added this here. So each time we reach else, this will be redefined when we call this function again. I will show you how. Yeah, the page number will increase. Now I'm gonna use the global underscore variable, and inside of it we have a function called debounce, and debounce will delay execution of function. Yeah, we'll pass to it a function and it will delay that for a specific millisecond. So I'm gonna call the pull function again, pass to it the same reference to the resolve function we will get from here, and I'm gonna just delay 1 second, and this will return actually a function, so invoke it. And this pull, I will use it here. So remember the promise, constructor function will pass a callback function containing resolve and reject. We are using this here to our advantage and keep passing the same reference of the first resolve to each time we call actually the pull function until we reach this if condition and everything is fine, which means we will call the resolve function, and this function points to the first resolve function we have, which is defined here. So the promise will resolve and everything here will be resolved. And this will actually make sense because asynchronous functions in JavaScript will actually, if your function does not return anything, they will return a promise that resolves to void, which is undefined, or will return undefined. But if your promise or your function, returns a value, they will wrap this into a promise. But if it returns a promise, this asynchronous function will resolve with the value resolved from this promise. So they won't return a promise that resolves to a promise resolves to a value. No, they will return a promise that resolves to the value resolved from here, which is very nice. And to use this, I can just call it and hit to then and just console log. Oops. Format the code. This should be it actually. So you will see here multiple HTTP requests. As you can see, each time we are delaying 1 second and executing the next call, and that's it. Only to page 10, then we will see the user here appears. So yeah, I hope this was useful. I find it really interesting. That's why I'm creating a video about it. And yeah. Anyway, bye.